Hey guys, Rollout here, and welcome back to Builder's Block. We've got a pretty packed episode today. A set review, a transformer, and a synchro frame. So that's all very exciting. But before we jump right into it, I'd like to take a moment to thank this week's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community offering thousands of inspiring classes designed to help you at any stage in your creative journey. Whether you want to explore writing, drawing, video production, productivity, or really anything else, each class is highly curated and taught by an expert in their field who makes each lesson engaging and worthwhile, no matter how experienced you might be in the subject. Navigating through all kinds of different topics is super easy, and there are tools for creating your own lesson plan, writing notes, and sharing your work with a larger community of creative people just like you. Don't forget to check out the Lego-related lessons available on the platform, but a class that I recently enjoyed is Find Your Style by Andy J. Pizza. It's all about discovering your own creative identity. I like to think that I've already discovered a pretty signature style when it comes to Lego, but I still found a lot of value in learning to define where that identity comes from and how to nourish it. My favorite lesson talks about going out and trying things before you think you're ready to, because exiting your comfort zone and learning to fail upward ultimately leads to self-improvement. Another exercise involves devoting a little time to creating something each and every day, no matter how insignificant. Sound familiar? Skillshare is less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, and for a limited time you can use the link in the description to get a free trial of premium membership. You've got a lot to learn and nothing to lose, so give it a try, and thanks Skillshare for sponsoring this week's episode. Now, on with the show. So I know that I just did a LEGO set review, and I don't intend for this to be a super regular thing. It's just that when I bought the Monkey Kid Warrior mech recently, I didn't actually have room for it on my LEGO shelf, so something needed to be replaced in my collection. I have had this set on display for quite some time, surprisingly, and before I pull it apart, I'd like to explain why. So I got this at the last Bricks Cascade. It was my convention door prize. And initially I was pretty disappointed by that for a couple of reasons. First of all, just looking at it on the box, it didn't seem like it had a lot of pieces that I used too regularly. I use a lot of tiles and plates because I build at such a small scale. And this set has a lot of very bricky bricks, which I was not super into. Not only that, but from the very beginning, ever since they revealed this theme, I was a little disappointed by it. I'm pretty nostalgic for the very early version of Minecraft. Back in high school, my buddies and I played those extremely early builds of the game before it was this mega popular thing, back when it was just a little indie game. And we had a lot of fun, and I really value that original version of the game. And for a time, I really wanted some good Minecraft toys. Of course, nowadays we have plenty, but back when these were first revealed, I wasn't feeling them. Something about them felt lazy and half-hearted to me, and I just didn't understand why it was so successful, why this theme was so incredibly popular. But I had the set, I figured I might as well put it together and give it a shot. And as I followed the instructions, as I started to build this set, it all just sort of clicked for me. I fully understood what this set was trying to accomplish and why it works. I'm going to go so far as to say that this is a masterclass in set design. I think that it's extremely well done. And again, I want to talk about it before I pull this apart, because unfortunately, I have no place for it in my collection anymore. So this particular set is all about being a modular representation of a spawned world. It specifically represents a mine shaft, and this is my favorite official configuration. I think that the 3 segments just look really pleasing, and it all makes sense. But not only does it look really good here all folded out, you can also fold it up, and I think in this orientation, it gives you a really good sense of the cavernous kind of claustrophobic feel of Minecraft. It's dark and gloomy in there. There's a lot of characters and items populating that world. It's just really fun to look at. And I feel that this set understands Minecraft as a game on a level that I was not expecting. And again, this is something that I did not fully understand myself until I started to put it together, because I don't know if it actually comes across when you just look at pictures of this set online. I think that if you are a fan of Minecraft, sitting down and building this set is half of the experience, because they put a lot of thought into that. Minecraft is a game about building, and so therefore building the Lego set gives you this really good sense of the game. As a licensed theme, I just think it's very, very well done. So here are all of the individual segments that make up this modular playset. Each one has a couple of little areas, and each significant segment has a unique action feature. So for this one, on the left, you have some scaffolding and a minecart track. And then on the right, you have kind of a TNT feature. You have these blocks that are covering up some kind of treasure block. And then you put the TNT block on it. And this Technic mechanism kind of emulates the blocks exploding to reveal the treasure underneath. Very simple, but a lot of fun. This one on the left has a waterfall pouring into some lava and creating some obsidian. And on the right here, you have a silverfish feature that I love. This surprised me so much as I was building it, because it's extremely simple, but it captures the feel of the game in such an elegant way that I could not help but smile the first time I saw it. On the far right here, you have this block that covers up a hole in the wall, and then you have a chute on top that you load the silverfish into, so that when you mine that block out of the way, gravity shoots the silverfish out at you in a way that's so accurate and so evocative of the way it works in Minecraft, and I love it. This is extremely charming and one of my favorite aspects of the set. The last segment is by far the most extravagant. On the left here, you have another cavern with some lava inside. You also have a bat hanging from the ceiling. I really like the way the bat was done. Again, just super elegant and very clever how they did the wings, so that they can be folded up or they can be splayed out, depending on how you'd like to display it. On the right here, you have some spider webs and then a cave spider spawner. Now, the way this works is really cool, so that you can remove the spawner to pretend as if your player has destroyed it to stop the mobs from spawning. But when you engage the spawner, when you put it in place, it activates a gear mechanism that allows you to actually spin the little mob inside as if it's preparing to spawn another spider. So that is a lot of fun. Then you have all of these sort of connective sections, things that just give texture to the model. You have a couple of cave segments and a couple of grassy segments. You also have these dirt blocks, which just kind of hold everything together. The set also has an extremely good selection of minifigures and items and blocks to populate the world. I would have just been happy with like Steve, a creeper, and a zombie, but you also get Alex, the bat, some silverfish, a spider. It's really, really good, and I think that All of the characters and items that come in this set paint a play pattern really, really well. There are very clear objectives within this set that make it really fun to explore and play with. Here is a configuration that I just came up with all by myself, and that's kind of the point of this set, is that you can take it apart and build it in any way you want with these modular sections without actually having to pull the set apart piece by piece. I really love pulling it apart into the individual sections and seeing what I can do with it, what kind of worlds and adventures I can paint. And again, I feel like that is very evocative of the game itself. It understands Minecraft, and that is probably the most important thing. It's just a great licensed theme. I understand why it's so popular, and honestly, I think it deserves more credit. I think the designers knocked this one out of the park, and I cannot imagine myself saying that 2 years ago. This set surprised me so much in that regard. Now, if you are not nostalgic for Minecraft in any way, I can understand why this set might not be for you. It's very simple, and I think a lot of the enjoyment is experiencing a lot of the aspects from the game physically. But if you are a fan of Minecraft and wrote off this Lego theme for a lot of the reasons that I did, I'd consider giving it another shot, because I think it's really good. On the next day, I built a transformer, and I want to preface this by saying it turned out completely differently than I expected it to, and I was kind of off-put by that to begin with. I had a lot of expectations for this design, and it took me a while for how it turned out to grow on me. Back when I built Backsplash, I talked about wanting to build a red gorilla transformer in homage to an old lost video I once made. Well, I gave it a shot, and I had a very specific idea for its transformation scheme, which led to some limitations, and that led to the gorilla mode having some very strange proportions. It's a little bit cute and cartoony, and I really didn't like that at first. But in hindsight, it kind of matches Backsplash in a weird way. He's a weird turtle, let's be honest. So it's grown on me, and I think at this point I'm okay with it. But at first, these big arms and the cartoony face just kind of wasn't working for me. This is what he looked like on the first day. Obviously, some of this is improperly colored, and some of it is a little unfinished looking, especially at the back. I think his legs and his feet are especially weak, as well as the way his head attaches is just a little strange and unfinished looking. But on the next day, I made some tweaks. I actually made it so that he can stand up properly. And here is his, we'll call it an ape mode instead of a gorilla, because if I'm less specific, I can kind of take some liberties with the anatomy a little bit. But now he's got ears, he's got toes, he's a little bit more complete looking. And not only can he stand up like this, but you can also have him on all fours once again as well. I switched around the colors, obviously, but you can see that there still are some elements that are not properly colored. Those clips on the end of his forearms in light gray, those do come in red, and I will be acquiring those as soon as possible. The bracket in black there very, very recently came in red. It comes in a single set at the time of this recording, and it's so new that not a single one is listed on Bricklink yet. So in order to finish this, I'm either going to have to wait until it is, or just buy the set, and I'm unsure which of those directions I'd like to take. I guess we'll see how long it takes for the part to finally be listed. But until either of those scenarios happen, this guy will not be finished, unfortunately. As for a name, I'm thinking of calling this guy Overthrow. Up next, I built another Synchro frame, so this week was very fruitful. Here is Bunker General, obviously a very armored Synchro frame, probably has low mobility. He's got sort of a militaristic theme. You can see the goggles on his head there, the armor plates on his legs. His main gimmick is that he uses these big pile bunkers as his primary weapons. Towards the back, you can see some typical Synchro frame iconography, like the engines there, as well as the wedge hands, and a lot of the familiar jointage. I also thought it was a neat idea to add a tube that connects his head to his body here. That's actually a rubber Lego whip that's coiled up inside of his body and then fed through to add that detail. I just think that's very cool, adds a lot of depth to this creation. You can see he also has some smaller pile bunkers on his feet, represented with those syringes there, so that he can either have a solid footing by shooting those into the ground, or he can make quick turns on a single heel. Here he is launching one of his pile bunker weapons. They are semi-functional. They don't launch very far, but they have kind of a satisfying clicking mechanism that makes them feel very tactile, like pushing them in and out has a lot of force behind it, and I think that's very fun. He's not super articulated compared to some of the others, but like I said, I imagine he is quite immobile because of all the armor he has. Here he is facing off against Virus. I imagine not only does he try to win matches by piercing his opponent's armor with these pile bunkers, but also the sheer air pressure that powers them is kind of able to push enemies back. So he has sort of pneumatic air-powered punches, which of course he needs those pile bunkers on his feet to support as well. Now, initially, my idea is that he'd have one pile bunker, and then on the other arm, he'd have a missile launcher. The reason I thought of that is because he has these goggles, and I wanted to justify them a little bit by maybe explaining that there's some kind of targeting system involved. And that idea sort of flourished into a modular weapon system for this guy. So I built a double-barreled machine gun, a missile pod, and a heavy shield for him that he can swap out. I imagine that he can choose two of these before going into a battle, depending on who he's fighting. So here he is with the bunker and shield configuration. Here he is with a missile launcher and a machine gun. A really interesting technique used on that machine gun. The core of it is a traffic signal piece, or I guess you might call it a camera element. It's got kind of a lens and a bunch of studs on it. I don't know how else to explain it, but you can take this bucket piece and fit it over that lens section. Now, this is obviously a super illegal technique, and also it's really inconsistent because I had a bunch of one piece and a bunch of the other piece, and only a few of them actually fit together this way, but the ones that did were really solid, so I don't know what's up with that. Either way, I think it's a really cool technique and a super cool detail. And then, because I built him missile pods, obviously, I wanted to take a cool picture where he's launching off a bunch of missiles using those ice cream cone elements to look like the plumes of the missile trails. Now, even though this was a pretty cool idea with the modular weapon system, I think more often than not, I'm just going to have him in the vanilla configuration with the two bunkers. And then the last day was another experimental one. I got a couple of pieces that I haven't yet played around with, and I built this little robot using a lantern element and a couple of infinity stones. The build is really simple, but there are some super cool techniques in the head. It takes these round elements with the bars connected to them, you put those together, and you can fit them inside the handle of the lantern, and then I attached some of the the Infinity Stones to the end to become his eyes. There's also some really cool shaping in the body, but the limbs are extremely simple. I didn't stop there though. I was feeling awfully creative, so I tried some other weird things. I built this plinth with the ball on it. And that's really all it is, but it's got some cool ideas. You can take the sprue that the Infinity Stones come on, and that's actually still within the Lego system, so you can fit it on this 2x2 plate with these pips on top. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, I saw this ball technique online, and I really wanted to try it out. It uses these inverted dishes and a Travis brick and some flower elements, and the geometry is awesome. So I had a lot of fun building that and figuring it out. So I think that after this, I'm going to take another small break. The last couple of weeks, while successful, have also been a little bit stressful, and sometimes I just need a moment to think about other things. In the meantime, I'll try and get a couple of showcases done, and we'll be back on track before you know it. Episode 30 just feels like a good place to stop for a second, plus I think we're going out on a pretty high note. Anyway, special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my loyal leader class legends, Valraven, Beyond the Brick, and Beta. Until we return, this has been Rollout, signing off.